Alright, we're back on the E36. Today we're doing some brake pads and new discs on the rear because, as you can see, these are just totally pitted from being super old and sitting forever, and then practically zero brake pads. So I'm just starting here. I'm gonna take this little 6mm brake rotor holder bolt that's countersunk in there. Just got a little ratchet and stuff, but when you spin this, the rotor turns. So I'm gonna put 2 lug nuts in here with a little breaker bar so that when it's pried up against the ground, the rotor doesn't spin and I can get that bolt out. All right, so that bolt's pretty rusty, still not coming out even when I got my little pry bar and lug nut deal in there. So I'm gonna hit it with some heat and some more penetrating spray and then try again. I was cranking on it pretty hard. I just don't want to strip out that little bolt, so I'm gonna flamethrower it and then lube it up again. Man, that was on the edge of just barely almost stripping out, but I got it. So that puppy's out. Now you just want to come back here to the back of the caliper and pop these little plastic things off just with your fingernail. And then behind there will be a kind of an Allen wrench socket. I believe it's 7mm. Let me go get one of my tools here. Right there, 7mm Allen head. So there'll be 2 of them. One there, one at the bottom back there. Pull that cap off too. Get both of those out. Pry this little holding clip off, and then you'll be able to take a screwdriver, pry from there, pry from the bottom there, and work the caliper off. All right, I got the caliper off. It's just sitting on the back there. That was the inner pad, you know, kind of low, but there's nothing on this outer pad. Look at that thing, that's all metal. So that would explain the grinding noise when you try to hit the brake pedal, but I knew just looking at these things through the wheel that they needed to be replaced. But now when you put on new pads, you got to push that piston in that comes out of the caliper. So you can sometimes try to push it in by hand. If it's not super strong, you might be able to do that, or get a screwdriver in there, put it flat and rest this up against something sturdy and then push on it. But that takes a lot of muscle and time and frustration. So if you can, get one of these little caliper service tool things, and I'll get it all set up on the caliper. But basically, as you spin it, it'll push this piston in so that when you put those thicker brake pads on, you can actually slide the caliper back onto the rotor. So let me get that all set up and we'll get that piston pushed in. All right, so that's kind of the setup there. You got this little plate here that rests against the back side of it. You got different fittings for different size pistons on different calipers, and just got one that fits the diameter of that piston. So as I turn the handle, this rod kind of threads through here and it'll push this piston back into the bore. And sometimes you do have to go under the hood and suck out a little bit of brake fluid from the reservoir so that it doesn't overflow. So I already did that, so that's just something else to take into consideration. But I can't do this with 2 hands, so I'm gonna just finish this, and then we'll be taking this caliper bracket off, which is just 2 16mm bolts right there. And then after that, I'm pretty sure we're just hammering on the back of this rotor here so that it comes off, or it's probably seized on pretty good, so we will have to hammer it. But sometimes they should just pull straight off as long as you got that little countersunk bolt out that we took out earlier. All right, I would recommend spraying these bolts with some WD-40 before you try to get them off. These are the caliper bracket bolts. There's two 16 millimeters on the back there. And they are pretty tight, so if you can't bust them loose, what you can do is just grab a hammer, and as you're kind of putting pressure with your hand and pushing down, just give that some smacks real hard and it should break it loose. All right, I got that bracket off. Now it should just be tapping the rotor from the back to pop it off. So I'm just gonna give it a couple of hits with the hammer. If you are reusing your rotor, you obviously don't want to hit it with a metal hammer and dent it, so you can use a rubber mallet. But since I'm putting new rotors on, I'm just gonna try to smack this thing off. Give it a turn or something. It's hard to get in here as well. I might have to move this caliper out of the way so I can swing right here, because that's going to be the most momentum. Getting from up here is kind of tricky. Yeah, I need to move that out of the way so I can swing harder. All right, a couple hard swings with the hammer. The brake disc popped off. Now I'm just going to take a wire brush and kind of clean up this hub a little bit. Probably clean up the caliper, maybe put some paint on there. Clean up the back of this dust shield. These emergency brake pads kind of got a crack in them there, so I'm gonna end up putting those in, which I believe you just kind of turn this hub to get it in line with that little screw there. Undo that, undo some springs there, put the new ones in. So lower one has a couple cracks as well. So yeah, then I'm just waiting for the new brake discs and pads to arrive. We'll get everything put back together, then do the front.